Parents of TikTok, what is the creepiest thing your kid has ever said to you?
So last year during the online school year, my oldest would sit in my room and he would do his schoolwork in my room. Well, while he was doing that, his younger brother was asleep and he wakes up out of his sleep, comes to the room, and he says someone was whispering my name in my ear. And me and his brother was like, "What?" And he's like, "Someone whispered my name in my ear." And he said, and when I woke up, they disappeared. And I said, "Well, what did he look like?" And he said he was all black, and he whispered my name in my ear.
Whoop, well, I guess it's my time to shine. So just for a little context, I have a 7-year-old little boy. He's my one and only. And I also like watching murder documentaries and crime documentaries and things like that. They pique my interest. So the one day at my lovely mother's house, we were sitting there scrolling through Netflix, and my mother looks at my child and says, "Hey, Bubs, what do you want to watch?" To which then my child replies, "Cold Case Files." My mother looks at him and looks at me and goes, "Why does he want to watch Cold Case Files?" My direct answer as a mother is, "I don't know. Ask him." So she looks over at him and goes, "Bubs, why do you like watching Cold Case Files?" The answer out of this child's mouth has me convinced that I will end up on the news someday. This is why. So I don't ever make a mistake. I was completely dead serious about it. Like, completely dead serious. We were all concerned after that. We were just like, oh.
Not my kid, but I work with kids, and one day a kid told me that he would break into my house, lay a broomstick across my stairs in hopes that I trip over it and break my neck.
This one's pretty daggone creepy, so hang on. I'm snuggling with my then 2-year-old daughter, she's 3 now, in her bed, and she says, "Mommy, I'm scared." And I'm like, "Scared of what, baby? Mommy's here. I'm not gonna let anything happen to you." And she says, "But before, when I was walking down the road and the men took me, they cut me up with knives and ate me with forks." And I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, they were mean to me. They cut me up with knives and they ate me with forks." So I didn't know what to say to that. And like, we don't watch scary movies around her. She uses KidsTube. We're pretty strict about what she can see and what she doesn't see. Regardless, I was so creeped out that I slept in her room that night.
So when my son was like 3, he's like almost 6 now, he used to go play in our backyard by himself a lot of the time. And he would be like digging or whatever, and I'd go out to check on him, and I'd be like, "Hey, what are you doing?" He would tell me he's playing with our neighbors who don't have eyes. And he would say that all the time. He would always talk about, like, every time he'd be playing by himself, he'd say he's playing with our neighbors who don't have eyes. And I asked him, like, what happened to the eyes? And he would just say, "I don't know, they just don't have eyes." He also used to talk about how terrified he was of his bedroom because someone would watch him at night through the window. And he said they used to crawl in through the window and eat his goldfish at night. Needless to say, we got security cameras outside to make sure there was no one watching him, and we never saw anyone watching him. But I don't know, it was pretty creepy.
Alright, so here we go. My now 8-year-old, at the time he was like 4, maybe 5, told me that his dad was buried in our backyard. And I was like, "No, your daddy's at his house. He's not buried in the backyard." He said, "No, my other dad. He's down that hill in the ditch. Buried in that ditch." And I was like, because there was a hill behind my mother's house at the time, and a ditch in it. And I was just like, "Nick, you don't have another dad. You only had one dad. That's, you know." And he's like, "It was from a long, long time ago. You don't remember?" And I was like, "No, of course I don't remember. You're not 4 years old. I don't remember a long, long time ago. You shouldn't either." And he was like, "Yeah, Mom, my dad is buried down there." So, and he sticks by that story to this day. Like, I will bring it up and he'll be like, "Yep, I remember that."
I have a couple of these, and they all involve my oldest daughter. First one was when she was about 2 years old. She went up to my husband and immediately said, "Dad, day by day, week by week, month by month." Might not seem a little bit creepy to you, but before me and my husband even got married, his grandmother passed away from dementia, and that is exactly what she would tell my husband every time that they saw each other. The next time that she creeped us out is whenever she was rocking back and forth in her room going, My grandmother passed away when I was 2 years old from ovarian cancer, and at that point, whenever I was 2, it went to her brain, and that is how she would soothe me, is by rocking back and forth, going, The next time she was about 4, my youngest daughter was 2, and she told me, "Mom, did you know I have a brother?" And I said, "No, you only have a sister, baby." She was like, "No, I have a brother in the sky." I had a miscarriage when I was 18 years old. She didn't even know that I was pregnant before her. Last time she creeped us out, she had a dream about a man who lived in the sky with glowing eyes and that she saw her sister in the future.
So, the creepiest thing my daughter has ever said to me, she woke me up out of dead sleep in the middle of the night and was like, Mommy, you have to get out of bed. I was like, what? She's like, Mommy, get out of bed, come lay with me. She said, there's a man sleeping behind you. And I said, oh, it's probably Daddy. Because, again, dead asleep, didn't know my husband wasn't home yet. And she goes, that's not Daddy. So I look behind me and there's nobody there. And then her eyes just go bug wide, like she saw something weird. Long story short, I slept in my daughter's bed.
Okay, so my 3-year-old, who was born in 2018, I came in the house yesterday and he was like, I see a ghost. What do you mean you see a ghost? He's like, I see a ghost. I can't go to the pot because I see a ghost. So I get up, I walk into the bathroom. I said, there's no ghost. He's like, oh, the ghost is playing with me today. Okay. So then he goes on for a couple of days saying the same thing. And I'm like, what's the problem, sir? Like, who are you talking to? I'm trying to do my makeup, so mind me. And he was like, I see a ghost. So I go, look, I have a bunch of pictures on my table and of the family members and stuff like that. And he points at a picture of this man holding a baby. And he said, that's the ghost. That man is my father, who passed away in 2013, 5 years prior to my son even being born or thought of. And he said, that's the ghost. That's the funny ghost who plays with me. Their birthdays are 5 days apart from each other. My father died in 2013, and my son was born on the 13th. I know I'm not crazy, but it's really crazy how this child of all my other son doesn't have that issue, but he'll be in a room playing by himself, laughing and looking at the wall. And he'd be like, that's so funny. And I just leave out the room. It's not my business. He's not talking to me. And obviously whatever is talking to him is not hurting him. So I'm not going to involve myself. I want to say it's my father. He was a jokester. He was a kid's guy. Like, he was that parent that was cool at the pool. He was that parent who would invite everyone to sleep over, cookouts, whatever. He would never be hungry in his house. So for him to have this type of bond with my father, who's never been here, it's nice, because he didn't get to enjoy my father in the living world. And now he does. But yeah, it kind of freaked me out coming home from work and hearing that kind of stuff.
This should be good. So just a few weeks ago, we were driving home with the kids, my wife and I, and my daughter, who's 5, started spouting off some stuff that no 5-year-old should ever know. She started talking about how she had this other dad, and her dad was dead. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm right here. She's like, no, my other one. And then she kept going. She started talking about this mom that she had somewhere, but she never would tell us where. Then it gets creepy. She recounted that she died one time, my daughter, and she went back to her old mom, and her old mom told her it was okay, that we could keep her. And she came back to life and stayed with us. When my daughter was born, she had a cord wrapped around her neck, got stuck in the birth canal, was born blue. She wasn't breathing.
When my daughter was 4 years old, she told me all about a boy that she had a crush on. He was 6 years old, and his name was something uncommon. We're going to call it Ezekiel for the story. She told me all the games they play, like tag and hide and go seek and that sort of thing, because, you know, I'm a parent and I ask a lot of questions because I'm nosy. The next day, I went into the school and I asked the teachers, who is Ezekiel? I want to meet him. They're telling me they don't know who Ezekiel is. I'm like, my daughter says he goes here. She says she plays with him every day. He's been going here for a while. The teachers say, no, they never met him. They've never had a kid there by that name. So I asked my daughter after school, who is Ezekiel? Where did she meet him? She tells me that she met Ezekiel at home and that he's been dead for 8 years. Yeah, if that is not creepy, I don't know what else is.
Okay, so this one right here, she's been talking about someone named Hannah. Thought she was just talking about her cousin. She talks about how Hannah plays with her, and she loves Hannah. And then one day, she told me that Hannah was in the bathtub. And I was like, girl, your cousin is not in the bathtub. But she was for certain. She took me in the bathroom and she looked in the bathtub and she told me that Hannah was in the bathtub. And then it got me thinking and creeped me out. When I was little, I had an imaginary friend named Hannah, and we ended up having to sage our house because of her. I live 5 houses down from where I grew up.
So check this out. My daughter's father passed away in November of 2018 in a car accident. Maybe a few months before my daughter's 3rd birthday. Now, they were definitely thick as thieves. Girl, dad, daddy's girl, all that. Fast forward to this year. His nephew is currently incarcerated in one of the jails on State Road. There's no visitation, so they're doing video calls through like an Android tablet. So my daughter and her cousin Diddy are on my iPad chit-chatting. He's rambling about something. She's barely paying attention, and the clock is counting down. So while he's talking to her, she starts to ball her face up and look, harder at my iPad. And she's like, what is my daddy doing there? And I hear it. Diddy doesn't hear it. But I'm like, I dismiss it. She's like, he's right behind you. Starts yelling at Diddy. Diddy still doesn't hear it. I'm like, Lotus, what are you talking about? I look in the tablet. Nobody's behind him at all. Not even an inmate.
So Jasmine goes away to overnight camp, and her mother and I decided to go into her room, deep clean, and defunk this bedroom. When she got home from camp, she was pleasantly surprised. And she starts looking around at things, and she starts rooting around her closet, and I said, no need, sweetheart. We got rid of all the dead bodies. And with this cubic psycho stare, she looks at me and says, you found them? And I was laughing. I look back at her, and she's staying in character. And for a second,
So my niece, not necessarily my kid, but my niece, when she was much younger, she grew up in our home. So my grandfather passed away before she really would have had any cognitive memory or anything like that of him. So just to fast forward now, she's at this time maybe 5 years old. We're watching a video of my grandmother, and a snippet of my grandfather pops up. Now, we don't have any photos of him around the house. We actually had to consider using his photo ID for his picture on his program for his funeral service because he did not have very many pictures. So she wouldn't have known what he looks like, and she definitely would not have known his first name at this time or anything like that at all. So we're watching this video, and the videographer in the video, they kind of fanned around the room, and there's a snippet of my grandfather there. And she goes, oh, that's my friend. Well, we were like, who? Like, who's your friend? These are all older, elderly people in the video. So who's your friend? And she goes, go back. So we went back, and lo and behold, she points out my grandfather, and she's like, that's my friend, Arthur. He plays with me. Very awkward because he'd been passed away for quite some time at that point. And his name was Arthur. And he was not the type to play with kids when he was alive, but that was him, and she pointed him out very clearly.
So when my daughter was 4, she, how can I explain this? Okay. When she was 4, she randomly just started talking about her husband. I can't remember his name. She had a name for him, and she would just talk about the things that they would do. And she said, well, Mommy, don't worry. It was because it was before I met you, before I knew who you were, or before you knew who I was, or something like that. And I was like, okay. Well, tell me some of the stuff he would do. And then her accent would change. Well, me and my husband would sit outside and catch a nice breeze. And we would just, just talk about everything and rock in our chairs. Somebody tell me that ain't a past life memory. Because it is.
So I've got a lot of these stories, but let me tell you a couple of them from one day. We go to an Airbnb. We went out of town, and as we're walking into the Airbnb, baby boy's like, Mommy, it's a ghost over there. And I'm like, where? And he's like, over there. And I said, well, is it a nice ghost or is it a scary ghost? He said, he's scared of us. Okay, so at that point, we end up leaving the Airbnb and going to a hotel. As we walk into the hotel room, we're walking in, and he's just backing up. And he's like, somebody behind them curtains. Mommy, candy. Okay.